Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. So, a little background on the situation. My parents divorced when I was 10. I am an only child. Both parents are remarried and they do not interact with each other. My mom married my stepdad, who has no children. My dad married my stepmom, who has a daughter, 27 female, and a son, 23 male. My stepsister has 3 kids, 6 male, 4 male, and a newborn son, couple weeks old. I have always felt a little slighted on my dad's side of things. My teenage years were pretty rough, switching back and forth between households where I was an only child in one and a middle child in the other. My dad always tried really hard to make me feel comfortable, but my stepmom never really liked me. However, we do get along now that I'm an adult and not living with them. There was a lot of drama because my stepmom has a lot of issues, and not just with me, with her own kids as well. My stepsister and I moved out as soon as I turned 18, just to get away from her, and my stepbrother, the golden child in her eyes, had been MIA for almost 2 years because of a huge fight he had with her, but recently waltzed back into everyone's lives and is back to being the fave. My dad is aware that she can be pretty crazy, and he has told me before that if I didn't love her so damn much, I wouldn't put up with her baggage. Anyways, on to the most recent situation. My stepmom's father just passed away, so they decided to update their will. My dad called me last night saying they are working on their wills and they want to be fair to everyone. So he said, we were thinking of 40-40-20, 20 going to you. I basically just said okay because he called right as we were sitting down for dinner and I didn't really have time to think about it. The more I think about it though, the more I feel slighted. This is the thing. My stepmom's ex, their dad, is sort of out of the picture, at least as far as my dad and stepmom know. He has actually reached out to both of them once they turned 18, and he has been in contact with them for a while now. My stepsister did cut contact with him once she got pregnant with her first baby, because she basically had to make the decision of telling her mom that she's been talking to her dad, or cut off her dad. So she cut off her dad. When my stepbrother went MIA, he apparently stayed at his dad's house for a while. My stepmom is not aware of any of this and speaks very ill of their dad. But I've gone with my stepsister to dinner there before, and he actually seems like a normal guy and got sucked into my stepmom's craziness. She turns everything around on everyone else, always. Anyways, the whole reason my dad said that they were thinking 40-40-20 was because I'm probably the sole executor of your mom's will, and they don't have another set of parents. I asked, how do you know that they aren't in their dad's will? To which he said, he hasn't been in contact with them for 20 years. So these are my things. 1. He has no idea that I'm the sole executor of my mom's will. This is an assumption. I am, but this was only just changed in the last 6 months, and he does not know this. I spoke to my mom about this, and she said, along with my boyfriend, that my mom's will should have absolutely nothing to do with my dad's, and it's not my fault that my parents got divorced and didn't have any more kids. 2. The fact that they do not know that my stepbrother and stepsister have been in contact with their dad is frustrating me. Because I'm the one being slighted based on a lie. But I don't think it's my place to reveal this information. It will cause a lot of drama. I find it hard to believe that they won't get something in his will. But perhaps I'm wrong. 3. I feel like they could have split it 35-35-30, or something a little bit more fair if they felt this way. But from my point of view, on paper, it looks like I'm worth half as much as my stepmom's kids are, and that feels pretty crappy. It's not about the money. 20% of their assets would probably change my life anyways. It's honestly not about that. It's more about the principle for me. But when I said this to my dad, he said, but that's all this is about, money. It has nothing to do with anything else. But I guess I disagree. I did tell him that it's his money and he has every right to do whatever he wants with it, and I don't feel like I'm entitled to anything. But am I being unreasonable for feeling this way? Everyone that I've talked to about this says this is insane and I'm being treated unfairly, which has caused me to think about it more and more, and now I can't think straight. I'm wondering what you guys think. I realize this sounds petty, and I'm trying really hard to look at this objectively, but this is also kind of a serious thing, and I don't want to not say anything if I should be saying something. Or should I just shut up and not cause any drama? That math is clearly a compromise between them, so don't expect to see a penny if your dad predeceases her. If your dad brings it up again, I would just laugh and tell him you would appreciate it if he stops pretending you will ever inherit any of the money. Tell him that he knows very well how his wife considers you versus her own kids, and that you are sick of being asked to play a part in the charade. You are not half of a son, and it's insulting to bring it up. If that was the best compromise they could reach when the inheritance is so far away, you are sure that she will get her way by the end. There is no point in discussing money you will never see. Update. As I said in my OP, I was genuinely unsure about how to feel about the situation, and that's why I came here for an outside perspective. I wanted to go about this with a level head. I didn't want to come across as selfish or ungrateful. I am beyond grateful that I'm getting anything at all from them. Never once did I feel entitled to anything. I never even thought about the situation until my dad asked for my opinion on the phone that night. I also just want to clarify that I never told my dad I deserved more, and I never told him how to distribute their money. He specifically said to me, "We are doing our wills, and we don't want to make anyone upset. We are thinking 40-40-20, 20 going to you. Do you think this is fair?" So I want to express the fact that he asked me for my thoughts on this. The more people I spoke to about it, and the more I thought about it, the more slighted I felt, which is why I came here, because I needed clarity on the situation. One more thing. Before the update, I want to express that my dad is not a bad person. In this situation, he may come across that way to some, but we are actually quite close. Maybe that's why I was so conflicted. And he has always been a good dad to me. Sure, he can be a butt, aren't we all sometimes? And perhaps he is a little weak, as one commenter put it, when it comes to my stepmom. But I guess that's what happens when two people are in love, especially when your kids have moved out and have their own lives. I know that I, for one, would do anything in the world for my boyfriend. That being said, we don't have children yet, so I don't know at this point in my life who would take precedence over who in this scenario. I'd like to think I would always have everyone's best interest at heart, and I know my dad does as well. He is only trying to be fair to everyone, and I know this. Yes, I felt slighted for more than half my life with that side of the family, always feeling like the odd one out in almost every situation, being treated this way strictly because I had my mom on the other side of things. My dad basically just tried to keep the peace, tried to keep everyone happy, and his wife is the happiest. Can I really fault him for that? I don't know. I have my mom who would walk to the ends of the earth for me, and I am so very thankful for that. And my step-siblings don't necessarily have that. However, I do think they would if they didn't keep their relationship with their dad a deep, dark secret, but that's not my business. Anyways, on to the actual update. I guess this is equally as wordy. I talk a lot. I had lunch with my dad today. I went in with a list of things I wanted to know. Basically, I wanted to know if they were talking about a joint will or separate wills, and if this 40-40-20 was in the ratio on his will. I wanted to know if he died before my stepmom, what would happen? Does everything get passed on to her, and then she's free to change the will at that point? If so, how does he know that she won't write me out of the will completely? And does he think it's fair to leave the option open? Also, the fact that they were basing this decision partially on the fact that my step-siblings haven't had contact with their dad in 20 years. It was going to be a game-time decision whether or not I was going to tell him that simply was not true, as my stepsister did give me the okay to tell him if I had to. However, I didn't feel it was my place and opted to keep it a secret. It is not my secret to tell. He said that it was one will with both their assets, so I guess that's a joint will? And that if he died before my stepmom, everything would go to her, and vice versa. I asked what was stopping her from changing the will at that point and giving her kids everything. And he said She would never do that. She's not that kind of person. I said, maybe so, but legally, what is stopping her from doing this? He said, technically, nothing is. I asked if he thought that was fair, and he said it doesn't matter because he would never marry someone who had morals like that. I asked if he could see my point though, and he said he could, and he will discuss this with my stepmom. I don't know where that will go though. Also might be worth noting that I asked him whose idea the 40-40-20 ratio was. He said it was his, not hers. I'm unsure if he's lying to cover her or if he's telling the truth. I don't know what I was looking for with that question, because I guess both answers are frustrating. But there it is. Now that I know the answers to these questions, I thought that it would be best for me to be the bigger person. I am fully aware that it is their money to do as they please. Never thought otherwise. If that means they think I should get less, then that's just the way it is. Do I agree? Honestly, whether I do or not, I don't think it would have mattered. Not my money, not my business. I expressed my point of view to my dad because I thought I would regret it if I didn't. Now that I have, I'm in the mindset that it is what it is. Personally, I don't have the energy to argue about it. I just don't care. I stress and worry about enough in my life. It wasn't about the money at all. I wasn't upset that I was getting less than my siblings money-wise. I was feeling slighted because it looked like I was worth half as much to them as my step-siblings were. I know that isn't true, for my dad anyways, and I never thought he was doing this maliciously. If he wanted to hurt me, he would have just not told me, and would have left me to be blindsided at the time of his death. But he kept expressing that he wanted to be fair and asked for my thoughts. So I told him how I felt about it. I still felt a bit slighted, but that's just the way I feel with that family anyways. I'm the outsider, and I don't think that will ever really change. And this situation just kind of solidified that. And yet, on the other side of things, I'm the center of my mom's universe. It's an interesting dynamic, one that was, and still kind of is obviously, hard to get accustomed to, even after all this time. It's not my fault that my parents divorced and didn't have any more children. It's not my fault that my parents decided to share custody, so I was always having to move back and forth, thus only being at each place half the time. It's not my fault that my mom married a guy who didn't have any kids of his own. And it's not my fault that my dad married a woman with 2 other kids and a mess of issues. I had no control over any of these things, just like I have no control over this. Again, not that I expect to. I told him all of this. I felt I needed to get it all off my chest, and I feel better after saying it. I don't think he realized that this is how I've always felt. He apologized for making me feel this way and assured me that this was never their intention, and I knew that it wasn't. He kept assuring me that even though this is how it might be perceived, and he respects that, it isn't how he actually feels. He told me he loved me, that I am his only daughter, and he loves me the most, even though he would never say that in front of the other kids, but that it was true, and that he would do anything for me. I think I just took this whole thing more personal than it was meant to be. But my dad also said he didn't think about how it would make me feel on a personal level, and he was only thinking about it in a monetary way. At the end of the day, I have decided to let this go. I don't know if they will change anything or not, but after talking to my dad, I feel like I was candid about how I felt, and so was he. And I guess that's all I needed to hear. Like I said 100 times, it was never about the amount of money I was or wasn't getting. So it's just not worth the fight. I am still close with my stepsister. We've always been close, and I don't think that will change. When I was talking to her about this, she told me that she would give up her share if this was going to cause any problems in our relationship. I said absolutely not. That's not what this is about, and I would never blame her or resent her for any of this. We are good. As for my stepbrother, we've never been close, and that probably won't change either. He's a weird dude. As for my stepmom, we've never been close either, and that also probably won't change. I'm choosing to spend my time putting in effort and showing love to the people who do the same for me, the people who matter in my life. I'm done putting any extra effort for those who don't care. So that's it. Long story short, I'm letting it go. P.S. Jokingly asked for the cars along with the 20%. He said he'll be selling the cars to expedite retirement. Told him he sucks. He said my boyfriend can have all his tools though. I'm sorry, I'm a father myself, and your father is a weak, crappy person. You have simply become conditioned to have low expectations of him. He is a failure, both as a father to you and as a man in general. When you become a parent, it is for life. You have to understand that to some extent, your own personal happiness is contingent on the well-being, both physically and psychologically, of your children. Basically, they come first. Your father sacrificed your upbringing for a relationship with this woman, just as he is prepared to sacrifice any potential benefits a decent inheritance might make to your future happiness. You are not a priority to him. Personally, I cannot conceive of a situation in which I would not fight tooth and claw for the happiness and prosperity of my own children. He has and is failing you. Any relationship you maintain with him should certainly take that into account.